What's up, guys? I just want to talk today about the PST or screening test in general and a mindset that some people have towards it. So just a little bit of backstory. When I joined the military, the recruiters at the station, all they really cared about when I said that I wanted to be a Navy SEAL, I want to go to BUDS, was all they cared about was my screening test, my PST. What were my scores? What did I have for a 500-yard side stroke, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, and a 1.5 mile run? Right? And that's what their job is. All they have to really focus on is, can this candidate pass the admin side of getting in, right? And then there's the physical side, which is a screening test. And then on their side, you're ready to rock and roll. You're ready to go. But for you need to take a step back and realize what the PST actually is for, or any screening test. Okay, it is really just a test to see how well you can follow instruction, and it is just a beginner level of fitness. And I want you to think about this. If you are picture yourself, you've come out of high school, maybe you spent a year or two at college, or maybe right out of high school, and you want to start training, you want to become a special forces operator, you want to go into the Navy SEALs or whatever it might be, SWIC, and you have this screening test, you've gone online, you've looked at it, and you're like, okay, roger that, I got to do this, 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 and this, and I'm going to start training on my own. Or I'm going to go through this fitness plan that's going to help me with my PST, right? So you're 18 years old, 19 years old, 20 years old, you're going through this training and you're seeing your gains happen quick, right? Because maybe you haven't really been pushing hard. Maybe in high school, you were an athlete, but you really didn't crush it. Maybe you were one of the average guys on the team, okay? So you have a little bit of a baseline level of fitness. So you start doing this PST prep training and you see the gains happen quick. You get yourself in the water, you realize, man, I've spent some time in the water before. Now I can do this 500-yard side stroke at 10 minutes, 11 minutes isn't that hard. Even getting down to a 9:30 isn't that hard. So you do that on your own, and then also within 4 to 5 months, you're hitting 70 push-ups, right? You've seen those gains happen quick. And then you go into, and you're doing the sit-ups, and you realize that, man, I can hit close to 80 sit-ups. And you go into the pull-ups, and man, I'm in those 15 to 20 range, potentially, right? Maybe you're lower than that. Maybe you're in that 12 to 15. You're like, man, I'm way above average. And then you go into the 1.5 mile run, and maybe you don't do so well, but you're like, man, I can do this, right? 10 minutes. I got myself down to 10 minutes in the 1.5 mile. And you see these gains happen pretty quick. Maybe in the beginning of that, you were smoked. 3 months in, maybe the first month of training for the PST, you were dying. And then 3 to 4 months training for the PST, you see these gains happen quick, man, and you have some solid scores to present to the recruiter. And I want you to realize this. The PST is just the screening test. It is a beginner level of fitness. To pass the scores are very beginner levels. And what guys think is that they see this progression. They say in 3 months, I've hit optimum standards. Even in maybe 6 months, I'm in that upper level of average. Maybe I'm better than average. And they think that maybe if they train for an additional 3 months past the PST, they think the gains are going to continue in the same level across the board in their running and their swimming and their strength. And what happens is you'll see this spike in athlete performance and results within the first few months of anybody training, right? If you take somebody and you're like, man, here's your plan, you do it for 3 months, you're going to see them progress quite rapidly, and they can actually achieve a PST fairly quickly. But what happens then is they have the PST under their belt, and then they might realize they're shipping out in 3 months. They say, that's okay. I've got some time, 3 months, 4 months, maybe 6 months, because I've seen my gains happen in the PST. Now I know that for the next 3 months, I'll just train for BUDS or whatever their pipeline is. And so they say, I've trained and I've seen the progression. So I'm going like this. I'm going to assume that it's going to continue to go like this, that I'm going to get better at everything. And I want you to realize that a lot of times that is not the case for most people. They have a spike where they achieve the PST scores they're looking for, and then there's plateaus that happen. And the next thing they realize that they're going to be facing at BUDS is a 2 mile swim. There's going to be a 4 mile time run. There's the obstacle course. There's boats and logs. There's mileage where you have to be able to run more than 20 miles of running in a week. Make sure your legs are ready for that. And they're like, okay, roger that. I didn't really think about that. I was just trying to get to the screening test because when I get to BUD/S, I'm going to be trained to be a SEAL, right? That's what happens there. And they have this mindset that because they saw so much gains in their PST prep and they hit optimal standards, that their training is going to continue that way. I'm going to tell you, it's going to take some time. It's going to take a lot of work to be able to pass timed 4-mile runs in boots and pants on the sand when you're cold, wet, and sandy, and then also be ready for 2-mile swims, nautical mile in the ocean, right? That's what they're going to be testing for, climbing on the obstacle course, passing that, and then of course the thing that everybody doesn't really train for is boats and logs. And you'll see guys, they train really hard for the PST and they're like, I'm just going to continue training hard for BUD/S, not really testing themselves, not really knowing what the metrics are, and they just assume that the progression past the PST is going to be enough to prepare them for BUD/S. And that is an issue for a lot of people because they have this idea in their head that, man, I crushed this, I passed this, I'm actually at above optimum standards, that I must be ready. When in reality is, you're just ready for a PST. You're not ready for the mileage that's going to come. You're not ready for the boats and logs. You're not ready for the ocean swims. You're not ready to tap into grit. You're not ready for the obstacle course. You're not mentally and physically ready. You're just ready to pass a PST. And when you get there to the pipelines that you're training for, normally and most often, they don't really care about those scores. There's a completely new metrics that they look for. And the recruiters don't ask you what your 4-mile time run is normally. They don't ask you how many miles you're swimming per week. They don't ask you what your running mileage on average is. They don't ask you if you can climb rope. They don't ask you if you can run with a boat and log or if you're strong enough for that. They have a completely different lens that they look at you through. So I want you to think about this. Are you facing this PST and are you approaching it in this manner that I've seen my gains and I've peaked or I've passed PST and I'm just going to assume that my running progression is going to continue at that same pace, my strength progression is going to continue at that same pace, and I'm just assuming that I'll be ready in 6 months. When in reality, it can take longer than that. Or you're not training hard enough. Training for the PST you can do throughout the week. It's easy. You can do 1 session a day and really you can progress on this. I mean, it's so easy to prepare for, and yet the next level, actual pipeline preparation, can take a lot of work. Normally we do 2 sessions a day, that kind of work where you're doing 2 sessions a day, your mileage is increasing, you're building your body, you're building your mind, the diet nutrition needs to be on point, sleep schedule, your priorities, mental performance. Like, there's a lot that goes into it, and I don't want you to think that just because you have above average PST scores that you're ready for your pipeline, because it happened to so many people. They go into their selection, they realize, I'm not ready. And they said, yeah, I didn't really want the job. They go into selection, they said, yeah, I tried it and it wasn't really for me. I found another job I want to do. But reality is, they look back and they said, man, I wasn't ready. So why would you face the PST, crush it, go to the recruiter, say I'm ready to go and ship out in 3 months when you know that the actual test is going to come later and you're not ready for it? Don't let that be you. I've seen it over and over and over. If you want this, you aim to pass the job interview, which isn't the PST. The PST is like the pre-screening, and then the actual pipeline is the job interview. And then the last thing I would leave you with is this. The instructor staff that's at every single military pipeline, especially in the Special Forces world, BUD/S world, SWIC, whatever, they're looking at the candidates through a lens thinking that when they are done as instructors, they're going back to the platoons, more than likely, and they're going to be showing up in the platoon with these candidates going through selection as the new guys in their platoon. Do they want you in their platoon? They're going to be looking at that. They're going to be asking themselves, are they showing up for themselves? Are they showing up ready and prepared? Because if they're showing up unprepared, it's obvious that they don't want to be there. They don't want to be here. And they don't want this very badly. They show up and they just kind of wing it, or they're drama queens. Well, we don't want them in the teams. If they are unprofessional, if they try to lie or they try to get by things or try to just do the bare minimum, they don't want you into the teams. And then there's going to be, think about it, it's a selection for a reason. There are standards of physical standards, and it's not like they're going to hold on to you just because you're a solid person and they see potential in you. They're not just going to hold on to you if you're not meeting the standard, the physical standard that they have. So if you want to make it through the actual job interview and become that operator, then don't just focus on the PST. That is very important. Obviously, you need to have good PST scores, but it goes way deeper than that. So I just want to throw this out at you. If this is something that you feel like you're falling into and you said, hey, I have this PST, I crushed it, and now you think you're good to go and that your gains are going to just continue at that same pace, well, I want you to just take a quick reality check and realize it might take you longer, and there's going to be the next level of discipline, the next level of training, next level of preparation you're going to have to step into if you want to be successful at the actual job interview, not the little PST warm-up. That's what I got for you.